Welcome everybody. My name is Martin Gauss. I'm the CEO of airBaltic and I'm live streaming today from our headquarters in Riga, Latvia. Today I will give you a briefing of how airBaltic will fly out of the crisis. And something special for you, you can ask questions which I will answer after the briefing, also live. And for that, you can go on sly.do on the internet, put in the event code airBaltic. You can do this from your mobile phone, you can do this from any internet access you have, and you can already now ask questions also during the briefing. They will be answered after the briefing. You can write your questions also in Latvian language. We will translate them here and I will answer them after the briefing in English. So let me start with the briefing, and the first slide I'd like to talk about is that airBaltic was and will be a very important asset for Latvia. We are strategically important driver of the economy of Latvia, and to explain the graph which you see at the bottom of the slide, we have the green line that is reflecting the passenger numbers we carried every month in the year 2019 in hundred thousands. At the end you see the total number of passengers carried by airBaltic was 5.05 million. If we now look at the size of Latvia with 1.8 million inhabitants, then that is a pretty impressive number and it tells on its own what kind of a driver for the economy in Latvia we are. And looking then at the gray bars which you see in the graph, you see in January and in February, that is the year 2020 now, that we exceeded the numbers of the year 2019. That was before COVID, and it clearly showed that airBaltic was on a growth path, a very successful growth path, also for the year 2020. But then COVID came and brought a 73% decline in passenger numbers for the year 2020. And if we look at the airBaltic situation in the COVID year 2020, we then dropped and stopped completely flying for 62 days in 2020. The numbers you see in April and May, 2,000 and 12,000 passengers, these were just repatriation flights for Latvia and the other Baltic countries where we brought back passengers who were stranded somewhere and couldn't come back to Latvia. But the rest of the year, with a slight upturn for the summer before we had to reduce our flying again due to COVID, has made a significant change. Still, in the COVID year 2020, airBaltic carried 1.3 million passengers. So even when you say the worst time in the aviation history also for airBaltic, we still did our job. And we flew and we connected. We flew more than 22,000 flights and carried 1.3 million passengers. So even in the worst year of 100 years of aviation history, airBaltic was an important asset in connecting Latvia and the Baltic states. The government in this year 2020, the government of Latvia provided all industries which were heavily affected support, and a major support in form of 250 million euro was given by the Latvian government in form of equity to airBaltic to overcome the COVID crisis. This was not needed in January and February because we were on a growth path on our own. This is a help just to get through the COVID crisis because this investment is temporary and it will just ensure that the very, very valuable asset airBaltic will also be there in the future. If we now look at this asset airBaltic and go into more detail, you ask yourself, so what kind of asset, what are you producing? And if we just take one of the Airbuses A220 we have, one of these aircraft can generate in 1 year around 20 million revenue. If you now say airBaltic has 50 of these aircraft on order, you can do the math and you take the 20 million times 50 aircraft and you come to 1 billion revenue, so income for airBaltic. And that would be, for example, in our business in the year 2025, when we have 50 of the Airbuses, we would produce 1 billion in revenue. And that alone tells you what an impact airBaltic will have to the Latvian economy. On top of it, I said earlier, we did not get that money as a gift. IPO stands for Initial Public Offering. That means airBaltic will go to the stock exchange, and listing airBaltic at the stock exchange enables our shareholder, the Latvian state, to return the 250 million in form of selling their shares and returning that money. And not only the 250 million can be returned at the stock exchange, depending on how much of the shares will be sold, much more money can come back to the Latvian government. So the asset airBaltic, which was very important, and there was no doubt about it, and it's clearly visible before the crisis, is even more important to take Latvian economy back out of the crisis, just because of that very big effect. 2.5% of the GDP of Latvia depends on airBaltic. But I'm talking today not about the past. I'm talking how can airBaltic fly out of the crisis. I show to you how we're going to do it, why we believe we are very well positioned to fly out of this crisis. First of all, our fleet. One of the key elements, we used to have 3 different aircraft types, and we changed when the crisis came our business plan, and we focus only on 1 aircraft type. It's the Airbus A220. This is a very modern aircraft. It's the most modern aircraft in the world, and it's a very young aircraft. airBaltic has been awarded last week for having the youngest aircraft fleet in Europe, with 2.4 years average age of all of our aircraft, but also worldwide. When 65,000 commercial jets were looked at, worldwide airBaltic has the 5th youngest fleet. So we have a very, very clear asset to take us out of the crisis with the Airbus A220, the most modern and the youngest aircraft. Today we have 25 of these Airbuses. We operate 25 of them. That is the right number, because currently we do not fly as much as we want to, but we need to grow, and we renegotiated successful our delivery of 50 Airbus aircraft as a firm order, and we have 30 options, which means we are not only ideally prepared today for taking with our 25 aircraft the business back, we can also grow and well outgrow from where we were before. And that is the reason why we have this aircraft on order, and why we will also take this year, for example, a delivery of 7 of these aircraft to come back to a size which airBaltic had before the crisis. Sustainability. The key issue once COVID is over and is out of the headlines in the media, we will return back to a subject, sustainability, which was there before. It has just now been replaced by COVID. It will come back. It is probably for the future one of the most important points. And that aircraft is the most sustainable aircraft in its class available. It not only comes with lower emissions due to a new engine technology of 20% lower CO2 than a comparable aircraft, it also has 50% less NOx, and it comes as the most silent aircraft, also with noise. If you now think about why are these things important, an aircraft is an aircraft, just think about a car you have, and then you are changing it to a brand new car, the latest model of a car you have. That car, being the most modern, would of course do a complete different job for you. First of all, it's new and fresh, so you like it probably more than the old car, but it will have a lower fuel flow, it will consume less, and everything works on this aircraft because everything is new. And on top of it, you even have a guarantee for that new car. So all of these things combined, what you would see in a brand new car, that is what airBaltic has to come out of this crisis, because we have these brand new Airbuses, the most modern, and we had ordered them years ago, and we took delivery, and we take delivery now to maintain our fleet at the lowest possible age going forward into the future. The aircraft itself has also the right size. If we look at some of our ultra low-cost competitors, they ordered many 230-seater aircraft. We deliberately said that our business model, and also for a potential downturn in the future, we want to focus on an aircraft size with 148 seats. On top of that, airBaltic reaching profitable operation already when we fly with around 70% load factor. That means if we have 100 passengers on board of our aircraft, we already fly profits. So again, the aircraft is definitely now the right size of aircraft you want to have, because a lot of the flying has stopped, or there's only a little flying on existing routes. And if you have now the right side aircraft, of course it's much easier to open up a route again. The efficiency of the aircraft, I talked about it, but it's not only less emissions. The aircraft is significantly lighter. The weight of the aircraft is lighter, and therefore the aircraft burns less fuel. And that is a very significant environmental issue, but it is also a cost issue. But not only the fuel of that lighter aircraft is a saving for us going out of this crisis, also that we have with that aircraft less landing charges, because you pay an aircraft for landing the weight of the aircraft, and the overflight charges. So what you are paying if you fly from A to B, these charges are also lower on that aircraft because it is lighter. And then of course for us a very important factor is the range of the aircraft. The Airbus A220 for us is used on the shortest routes we have, which is Liepāja in Latvia, but mainly on high frequencies connecting the two other Baltic capitals, Vilnius and Tallinn. These very short sectors, also for that, the aircraft is perfect to connect to the Riga hub. But on the other side, the same aircraft, without any changes, we can use on long-range operation. And we announced this morning that we will be opening Dubai as a destination as of September. That aircraft is also perfect for us with 148 seats to fly 4 times a week to Dubai as of September. So, short-haul aircraft, long-range aircraft combined in the same aircraft. We don't have to think about it. We have only that aircraft type. One of the key elements for airBaltic, the focus on the Airbus A220 fleet only to take us out of the crisis. If we say the aircraft is an asset, then we have and maybe even more important asset. It's the excellence of airBaltic. Our excellence, which we have shown in the past and been awarded. We have been the most punctual airline over several years in the world. That is a form of excellence which needs an operation which functions very well. What you want coming out of a crisis is a well-functioning operation. So being awarded the most punctual airline, not only we did that in the past, in the COVID year also, and today we are maintaining a world-class leading punctuality. A very important factor because it tells a lot about how your operations go. airBaltic is seen in the world as a very innovative company. Today everybody knows what Bitcoin is, but you remember which airline in the world was the first to accept Bitcoin as a form of payment? It was airBaltic, you can Google this. The first airline in the world was airBaltic accepting Bitcoin. Not in the year 2020. We did that already in 2014. We were innovative. Today, of course, everybody talks about it, but at that time, it was an innovation. But we do much more innovation. Recently, we have a cooperation with LMT here in Latvia, and our pilot academy, our airBaltic training department is working on drone projects there. We are cooperating with each other to improve Latvian LMT's needs, because they are flying these drones, and we can help with our training aircraft. And these kind of operations are innovative, and there will be much more coming. So the excellence in innovation of airBaltic will also be part of taking us out of this crisis. Market leader, we are the market leader. We are the clear market leader in the Baltic states by being the #1 in Lithuania, in Estonia, and in Latvia. And this connectivity which we have built up for the Baltic states, not only for Riga, for all of the Baltic states, we kept it. We kept it in 2020. airBaltic kept the connectivity, the lifeline to all Baltic states was kept by airBaltic being the market leader, the very clear market leader in the Baltic states. It wasn't other airlines coming here to serve in the 2020 the needs of Latvia. It was airBaltic ensuring and even expanding its market leader position in this very difficult time. So having the market leader position and being the #1 connectivity provider for the Baltic states is one of the assets taking us out of the crisis. Safety and health, the top priority already for more than a year talking about COVID. And we've taken a lot of effort when COVID came. We were the first ones, the first airline to introduce masks for every passenger, well before other airlines talked about it. airBaltic was innovative, handing out an envelope with masks at a time when it was even difficult to get a mask in Europe. We continued our operation with disinfecting the aircraft, and we're still doing this today with many, many measures. All these efforts we took gave us a 5-star COVID safety rating by Skytrax. There's only 3 airlines in the world which hold a 5-star rating on COVID-19. Why is that important to come out of a crisis? Why is such an award important? Because you as travelers out there, you will want to feel comfortable. And I think it is much easier if you fly with an airline which has proven that they do understand your needs for safety and for health in these times while COVID is still with us. So that we see also as one of the drivers to take us out of the crisis. And our model itself, we have been promoting our hybrid model before the crisis, and now we believe it is even stronger after the crisis. What we are combining on our aircraft is a full business class where you have the seat between you and your neighbor free, you have a hot meal, you have all the things in a typical business class. But what we do for the majority of our travelers, we offer for the price-sensitive passengers, we are offering an ultra low-cost model in the back of the cabin, which means we are combining on the same aircraft with our hybrid model a business class and a ultra low-cost economy. And this combination will enable us to go into both markets, because we are a good airline for a business traveler, but we are also a good airline for somebody who is price sensitive. This is the excellence of airBaltic, which is a condition for us to fly out of the crisis. You see there, strong team. What do I mean with a strong team? Why a strong team takes you out of the crisis? Our workforce, today a little bit above 1,000 people, is a highly motivated workforce. They've done the job and they're doing the job. The 1.3 million passengers carried last year, they were carried by airBaltic staff. Our aircraft, all of them are maintained by our technicians, and in the back, the 1,000 people of airBaltic are working very hard to maintain this airline at these very high levels. We had an internal survey about motivation of our staff, and we have reached in 2020 the highest ever result about the inner motivation of our people to work for airBaltic. If you can work with a team which is so motivated and so dedicated in the worst time of the aviation history, that is definitely an asset. And I have to tell you, I'm incredibly proud to be the CEO of that airline, because it hasn't been seen before to work with such a motivated workforce in such an environment. And you can tell this if you go on the social media and you check out the videos about airBaltic and what we do. There was one released this week, a very nice one, where we show the 400 different positions in airBaltic, where you can see what airBaltic does, what excellence we have. That team, and that's all done in-house, by the way, so we do all this filming and all these videos with that team in airBaltic. That highly motivated workforce will be such an advantage for us, taking us out of the crisis, that I can't praise them enough, because I'm really, really proud of my people. We have an experienced international and local management. So we have a balance between the international experience of the aviation industry together with the local experience. And the senior management team in airBaltic, the 11 top management members, they have so much experience that they can take this airline out of the crisis and lead by example. You need leadership in such a crisis. And these 11 people, the top management team of airBaltic, in that combination we have it with all that local and international experience, are definitely a factor to take this airline out of the crisis. Gender diversity, no issue there with airBaltic, right? Because our gender diversity today is 50-50. Half of our staff is female, half of our staff is male. We are not discussing at all any target where airBaltic wants to go in the future. We're already there. And not only that, overall of our staff, people are discussing what kind of quota you should have for the management, that females can be in management. In airBaltic's management, we have 50% females and 50% male. And in the senior management, in my team, in the top management team of airBaltic, we have 45% females and 55 male. That itself is a factor which shows how dynamic airBaltic is already today. We do not have to follow any quota targets. In airBaltic, we do have that gender diversity already. We are living it, and we didn't build it up. It is there already, and we don't need to have that built. We have it. And it's a very, very strong factor for taking the airline out of this crisis. And of course, we need to recruit people, and we will need to recruit many, many people in the future, and we need experts. And what is easier than to recruit if you are the best employer? We have now, for the 10th year in a row, been awarded the top employer in the transport sector in Latvia. Also very proud of it, but it also makes it easier to recruit top talent, because we need talent. I said earlier, we have around 400 positions in our company, different work tasks to do. So all these experts, these high-level innovative jobs in airBaltic, future recruitments makes it easier if you are the top employer. And we are not a startup. This is not an airline which is around for a couple of years. airBaltic is already 25 years of experience. So what we're doing with the background of 25 years of experience, and that of course has taken us through some ups and downs in the past. We have been down already before, and we've worked ourselves out of the last crisis to be a very successful company. We use that experience now to take airBaltic out of the crisis. It's a quarter of a century of experience in airBaltic already in this industry. That alone will help us a lot getting out of this crisis. But to get out of this crisis, you have to have a strategy. And I put there on the slide a clear strategy, because we try to keep things simple in airBaltic. We had a business plan, which was the one taking us to profits, which is called Destination 2025. And all we did, we adjusted that business plan to reflect the new reality and to get out of this crisis, and we called the business plan Destination 2025 Clean. But that is not just a document which some management did, that is the document which the Latvian government took to take it to the EU Commission to say at the EU, this is what we believe, could you please have a look at it? This is the business plan which will take airBaltic out of the crisis. And the EU Commission, to be able to allow the Latvian government to put in 250 million, looked at it and documented that they see that this clear strategy of airBaltic will lead airBaltic out of the COVID crisis back to success. So this business plan, which was developed in-house, has not just been kept in-house, it has been given out and it has been tested by experts that that is a viable strategy to take airBaltic out of the crisis. What we learned in last year and what we are using now, and it will help us tremendously, you might remember that every Friday SPKC came up with a list of numbers where you couldn't fly to this country, or now you cannot fly to this country. That started last summer, and every Friday evening airBaltic had to cancel flights on the Saturday, and then for the following weeks, and the next week then again things changed. We did that for very, very long time. It was very, very painful, but we learned a lot out of it. We were able to adjust within days our network and to different scenarios. And what did we do? We developed for this year, as it is not clear yet how this development comes, 5 different budget scenarios where each of them reflects a different way how vaccination in Europe will work and how airBaltic then will adjust to get out of the crisis. So we are not just following one plan, we are having 5 different scenarios on how this crisis could for us end, and all of these scenarios are part of our Destination 2025 Clean strategy. So with that we are able to say if vaccination comes at this time to this level, then airBaltic's performance will be like this. Because it's not us to decide of what we fly at the moment. The vaccination levels in Europe are deciding of what airlines can do, because most of the countries have restrictions in one form or the other. Riga hub, strategy very clear. Riga in the Baltic states is the biggest airport, and it's the only hub airport. Hub means you are coming to this airport and then you're connecting to another airport. Take the example, you're flying from Hamburg to Riga, but you don't stay in Riga, you are transferring and then you are flying to Tbilisi. Riga hub functions then as the connecting hub, and airBaltic does both. We fly a passenger who just wants to go from Hamburg to Riga. That is a point-to-point passenger. But we also take the passenger who wants to go from Hamburg to Tbilisi. And our business traditionally is 50% of the passengers are flying through Riga hub and they transfer in Riga, and the other 50% are point-to-point. And part of our strategy is the point-to-point traffic which we offer from Tallinn and from Vilnius. From there it's point-to-point, and what is not offered from there goes through Riga hub. And in Riga we have the hub which offers, of course, a much wider variety of routes. And that is strengthening Riga as the #1 place for aviation in the Baltic. Distribution channels, how can you buy a ticket on airBaltic? Ideally, you do it on the website. That is also the most preferred channel today, but things are developing. We still rely on all other distribution channels, so you can still buy a ticket with airBaltic in the travel agency in a traditional way. But also, a lot of our tickets are not sold by us, they are sold by codeshare partners. Codeshare partners are other airlines, and we have recently closed that with Lufthansa, we have it with KLM, we have it with Air France. Codeshare means you fly, airBaltic is flying the flight, but Lufthansa, for example, is selling on their website the ticket on airBaltic's flight. And with that, of course, they are doing the job in Germany, where they are the dominant and big airline. They are doing that sales job for us, because airBaltic cannot be in all the countries as strong as the national carriers or the other carrier in these countries. So that is also part of our strategy to maintain these 22 codeshare partner relations. And the ultra low-cost carriers, let's take Wizz Air, take Ryanair, which are also coming here to Riga. They are just doing point-to-point. They are not sold by other airlines. They're just flying from A to B. But airBaltic is completely different. Our strategy is completely different. If you look at the 75 destinations which airBaltic offers from this summer, nobody else offers that. Competitors offer occasionally a point-to-point, but nobody will ever in the future offer a hub in Riga. That is something airBaltic has built up, and that is the strength of Riga as the Baltic aviation hub. Trust from the capital markets we have. We have issued a bond of 200 million, the largest bond at the time issued in the Baltics. That was issued by airBaltic because the capital markets trust it. You know, bond issuing means people going with a microscope to look into your planning and your number. They're going very deep into all your planning, in all your numbers, in your future ambitions, into our business plan. And only when international investors, and they were from 25 countries all around the world, from Asia, from the US, these investors trusted in airBaltic, and today, if you look at the bond of airBaltic, just today, our bond is trading at 92, above 92 today. That is an immense trust of the capital markets in airBaltic today. So the bondholders today trust, the international world trusts very much in airBaltic story going forward. And the capital markets are also needed when we go for the stock exchange to list airBaltic on the stock exchange, because it's gonna be the same investors who gonna invest in airBaltic shares. So that trust is part of our strategy going forward. And talking about the international investors, that picture here was taken in New York at top of the rocks, seeing the Empire State Building in the back. And what it says on this award, we got awards, many awards, but that is probably the most prestigious award airBaltic received in 2019. It's the Air Transport World Award for the airline market leader of the year 2019, and that is airBaltic from Latvia. We got that awarded in New York. CNN, we were on CNN. airBaltic from Latvia was on CNN. We were awarded in front of all airlines of the world of being the market leader, doing the best job to become the market leader. Nobody doubts the global brand recognition, because there is no other brand in Latvia which is so well known than airBaltic and which is so strong internationally. It's not always in Latvia seen as that, because everybody knows airBaltic, but we are very, very well known internationally. We are known in the TV in New Zealand and Australia, we are known in Hong Kong, but we are also known in the US. And that is very important to take airBaltic out of the crisis, because you want to be known as a global brand. But we're not out of the crisis yet, so there's some last steps to do and to get out of the crisis. Key is now the vaccination levels need to increase in Europe and in Latvia. Because we are flying all over Europe, so as the vaccination levels increase, more and more people will get their freedom back, and of course will get their freedom back to travel. And we don't pick any specific country here because we are a European carrier based in Riga, Latvia, but we of course depend on the freedom of people to move around. And there is so much pressure now, you can follow in the different medias in Europe how much willingness, how much demand for people is there to travel again. And we airBaltic are ready to take all of that demand, but it has to happen in a safe and coordinated way. And for that reason, we are working on rules like digital health pass, the green pass, which is coming by different European governments, but we also work on something, we're trialing it, the IATA travel pass. We want to simplify again how you can get on board. Today, if you have traveled recently, it's a bit complicated procedure. We want to ease it. We want to make it safe for the governments to rely that flying is something safe and coordinated, but we also want our passengers to feel safe. And I clearly say you don't have to have a vaccine in the future to travel, but you will have to have something which enables you to travel. And to combine that information, the ideal solution will be a document which you, as you have a boarding pass on your mobile phone, you will then have that information flying into your test certificate if needed, or your vaccination pass, or your other information. They are flying into that, that app, and then with that app you identify yourself as you are green to go, and then travel will return. So these last steps have to happen. We can help to innovate. We are helping. We are working with the government on this. We are involving ourselves on IATA level globally to get that going. But these are the last steps before we are out of the crisis. And this success story, which we had and we will have again, is not only the airBaltic success. This is the success of the whole of Latvia for everybody. For the restaurants in Old Town, which at the moment looks more like a ghost town. This is for Kuldiga. This is for Cēsis, for the tourism, and this is for the restaurants, for the hotels, for the whole of Latvia. The whole economy depends on us. So the success of airBaltic is the success of Latvia. And with that, I conclude my presentation with one picture which makes me again proud when I see it, because it reflects 3 of our aircraft in the 3 Baltic states colors. That is something airBaltic stands for. We are connecting the 3 Baltic states, and we are showing this also in the COVID times to the whole of Europe by flying these aircraft and maintaining the connectivity for the Baltic states.